I know for some people, high school is this awesome, wonderful memory, full of excitement and joy. I'm not one of those people. I was one of those people who was not in the in crowd.
Amen, tell it.
And like a lot of folks not in the in crowd, in those days we longed to belong to that in crowd. And it's painful when you're on the outside, when you're not the one that's accepted, when you're not the one that's affirmed, or even worse, when you're one that's abused or demeaned. I can still remember 20 years after my high school graduation, I went back to my hometown and I was ordering some food for my family at KFC. And all of a sudden, this young woman came up, and she was the one that dated the captain of the football team. She had not given me the time of day in high school. But all of a sudden, in that KFC line, I must have been something. She started batting her eyes at me. "Oh, Derek, it's so good to see you." And I'm thinking, what in the world is going on here? And then I realized later, I had left the county. I had graduated from college and graduate school and had a good career. And her peak, the pinnacle of her life, was the senior year of high school. Suddenly, I looked really good. But fortunately for me, I was already taken. So I can really understand the disciples in today's gospel. They were not the in crowd. They were the least of the least. Common laborers, despised tax collectors. They were not the people that culture and society was lifting up. They were the overlooked ones. And suddenly, one day, this rabbi comes up to them and says, "You, I pick you. Come follow me." And as they begin to follow him, they get really excited because they realize this is the one. This is the one we've been dreaming about. And not only that, the crowds are starting to gather. And you've got all these crowds swirling around, and suddenly I'm in the inner circle of the one. Anybody who wants to see him has to come through me. Suddenly I've come from nobody to being the somebody of my day. Yeah, Jesus every once in a while says something crazy like, I'm going to Jerusalem, I'm going to be killed. But, if I put that out of my mind, I can keep all these happy thoughts. And then suddenly, I look over somewhere else, and there's someone saying, "In the name of Jesus, I cast you out, evil spirit." Wait a minute! You're not supposed to be doing that. That's what we're supposed to do. You're taking some of our glory. You're taking some of our praise. I waited a long time for this. You're stealing some of my popularity. I can still remember my grandmother talking about growing up in Pennsylvania. And in that day and time, she was told, as a good Lutheran, that when she got to the block that had the Roman Catholic Church on it, she had to cross the street and walk on the other side. And the Roman Catholics taught their children that when they got to the block of the Lutheran Church, that they had to cross the street and walk on the other side. They aren't us. There's something wrong with them. You see, anytime we start feeling jealous, anytime we start looking at who the them is, we're on dangerous ground. And that's what Jesus is saying. He's saying, if you start to notice that you're looking at an us and a them, and you've got a them over there that you don't like, or a them over there that's taking some of your glory, or a them over there that's challenging who you are, then take a look at yourself. And in great dramatic fashion, he says, if it's your hand that's causing that, cut it off. If it's your foot, cut it off. If it's your eye, pluck it out. Do whatever you need to do to get rid of that jealousy, to get rid of that fear, that anxiety of the other. For you see, we worship a God who shows power through mercy, pity, and compassion. And Jesus says to us, as he said to his disciples, I've already picked you. You are my delight. You are my chosen. Nothing will ever take that away. So if someone is working in concert with us, but isn't part of us, let him be. Celebrate that. Celebrate that my spirit pops up in all sorts of different places. Celebrate that everyone doesn't have to be alike. Celebrate that my spirit will flow and move wherever it goes. You don't have to worry that you're going to lose anything by someone else doing something great. I love you, God says. I've chosen you, God says. And I have chosen you to be salt and light for the world. And you can't season the world, and you can't illumine the world if you're fearful or anxious or jealous or resentful about some other person or some other group. You are mine. So go out. Be that salt and light. Celebrate all that God is doing, both in your life, in the life of your friends, the life of your community of faith, and the life of the world. Be different. Don't divide yourselves into categories, Jesus says, like the world does. For we see what strife and pain and hardship comes when people build camps against one another. The disciples said, Jesus, Jesus, look what they're doing over there. Stop them. Jesus says, don't be afraid. Come.